My name is Carina and welcome to the Carina Chronicles. Today I'm going to tell you which books I read in January 2024 and my overall rating of them. So let's start. In January 2024 I read 6 books, which is more than average for me. I read about 4-5 books per month. So you would say that is quite a good month. And also compared to last year, January 2023, I only read 1 and it was a 1 star. So wasn't very good start of the year. This is way better, but the whole month I had a feeling I could finish like 15. I really was in this great reading flow. So 6 is quite disappointing to me in some way. I think this is because there are a lot of books that I started but haven't finished yet. So this might be a good omen for February, because there are a lot of books that I'm halfway through and I could maybe easily finish in February. But let's quickly start with the books that I did finish. And we're starting with a classic, and it was that I finished it this month, I think is already great. And that is Inferno by Dante. This is a part of the Divine Comedies by him, and the most famous one, I would say. In this play, he, as the author, is also the main character in the story, goes with Virgil, is that how you call him in English? The Latin poet and philosopher. Well, you're going with him through all layers of hell and heaven. And well, hell is obviously the hell part. And in this part he goes through all layers of hell that he came up with, and later on were quoted plenty of time. Like, this story has been referenced to in so many books. I'm really glad I read it now. But the whole story is like telling other stories. You meet someone in there and then you get his story. And it's written in verse and it's heavy. Like, I will take a look what in the end, how many footnotes there were. 365 footnotes about what you're actually reading. So that is quite complicated. I did love the translation, and I love that I have read this book now, because I get a lot of references now. I also understand why this has been so important, because it's like almost a study book, because there's so much in there. And I also, oh, there my bookmark goes, had beautiful illustrations, gruesome but beautiful. So I had a great experience with this, and I gave it 4 stars. But I wouldn't per se recommend it. It's not like a nice novel to read or something. It's really something that you should want to read because you want to have read it and know what everyone's talking about when they're quoting Dante's Hell. Which is, by the way, in the rest of the month, in almost every book I read, there was a reference to it. So it feels great to have read this. And it was a great first book to read in 2024. I feel more like well read now in some way. This is obviously a joke. I really don't care if I'm well read or not. But let's continue. The next book that I read was Dead Girls Don't Talk by Sandra J. Paul. I called her Sarah before, I'm sorry. This is a YA thriller written in English, but written by a Belgian author. And it is interesting because it's about 2 best friends. One of them died and the other one is suspect of being the murderer. And you can decide from which part of the book you start. One is the part of the person that has been murdered. She tells what has happened via medium. And the other part is that of the supposedly murderer. And you can choose which one you want to start with, and you read both of their sides, and then in the middle is what actually happened. It was a great concept. It kept me on edge for the whole read. I really wanted to know what had happened. I did think the ending was anticlimactic, and first I thought that then the book wasn't good. But I decided that that is just the case with thrillers. Like, they have to like make it work in the end, and you can either like it or dislike it, and obviously my rating goes down because I didn't like it, but that doesn't make the whole book bad. Like, I enjoyed myself so much wanting to figure out what happened, and even though I didn't agree with how it happened, I didn't really feel the vibe that she was going with, I still thought it was a great fun read and didn't want to drop my rating completely because of the last 30 pages. So I gave this 4 stars as well because I had such fun. But if you have read this, please let me know because I want to discuss the ending because I fully did not agree with this. Then we had a Dutch translation of a book that is actually English, I believe, or American. And that is Zoals onder water by Sara Novíc. And in English it's called True Biz. And also a Reese Witherspoon book club pick. It was such an interesting story. I really hadn't expected to like it this much. We're going with the deaf community in this book, and you see different point of views from different characters, but they're all part of this community, or like their son or daughter or friend or mother is part of this community. And they go to a deaf school and things happen there. And it's actually, for some it's kind of a coming of age story. From other point of views it's more about the relationships they have. And it's a very contemporary novel, but in a very interesting setting. And you also get a little history classes in between about the deaf community and also about sign languages. And they try to teach you sign language by also showing illustrations on how to sign certain things. And therefore this book really felt like an eye-opener to me because I didn't know how little I knew about the discrimination against deaf people and also about sign language. Actually, I didn't know anything about it. Like, obviously I heard of it and I've seen people and met people that are deaf, but I was quite ignorant. And now I feel like I know more and I can like sympathize better and also act in a better way towards them. So I felt like this was a very useful read for me, at least, but it was also still really fun and quite exciting at sometimes, this book. So I actually really loved it, and I gave it 4 stars also. Not 5, because I did think it was not like most brilliantly written ever. Like, I compared a little bit to Homegoing by Yagiase, one of my favorite books of all time. That was an eye-opener for me about the community of people of color. But that was also brilliantly written. And therefore it's one of my favorite books of all times. This was an eye-opener to me, but it wasn't that brilliantly written in my opinion. So the book doesn't deserve this high of a praise. But I would recommend it to almost everyone just to, well, get the same eye-opening experience, because I suggest everyone should have that sometimes, you know? So 4 stars as well. Then we have a book that I actually first also gave 4 stars, but I changed my opinion. And that is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. And this book had so much hype. So when with the book club we decided to read this one, I was extremely excited because I love jumping in on a hype. This is about a girl who loses her mother and goes to the same university her mother went to, and then finds out she has magic and joins some secret community to figure out more about the death of her mother and about the magic that she has. And it's based on Arthurian legends, and that just sounds like everything I need in a story. And I love the cover. I'm usually not one for people on the cover, but this one you can't really see how much it shines, but it does shine a lot, and I really, really, really liked it. So I'm just in love with this cover and the concept of this book. The execution, though, wasn't that great. I don't really get the hype. Like, it wasn't that bad either. It was fun, it was slow sometimes, there were some very annoying characters. For example, the main character was very annoying, and I can understand why you wouldn't really like it because of that, because the author doesn't really seem to address that this main character is annoying. So you're not certain if it's supposed to be the way, you know what I mean? And also some things were very, very convenient. There was a lot of info dumping, which all made it not that great. But I had really fun reading this. Like, I wanted to pick it up all the time, and I just wanted to know what happened. I loved the ending. Which is also not something I have very often, but I love the ending, so I will definitely read part 2. There was this grandmother character that arrived at like 3/4 of the book, which I found hilarious. It made me think of Mushu of Mulan, and I couldn't. I really loved her. So yeah, that was actually great, and therefore I gave it 4 stars. But after the book club discussion, no one really liked the book. There was one other person that kind of liked the book, but also not fully convinced. And I explained why I liked the book, but I also explained some things that I didn't like about the book. And when I heard myself talking, I was like, you were just in a great reading mood and loved reading, and that is why everything was 4 stars. But this one, you, and I meant me, had quite some problems with it, enough to let it drop to 3 stars. But still an enjoyable read, but definitely not worth the hype. Like, I would still recommend this book to you, but don't have your expectations up there, because it's not worth the hype. I don't get it. I don't get the hype. But it was great fun in some way. And then we had my first TBR jar pick of the year. I needed to read it, and I almost finished it in one day. I left like 20 pages to read the next day because I really needed to go to bed. Which is a bad sign that I actually could do that, but I still love the book so much. And that was Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom. This is a story about a boy, which I didn't expect, by the way, because the cover is a girl. I thought this would be the main character. It's not. The main character is a boy, and he loses his grandfather, and then he kind of loses his mind, and he tries to figure out what his grandfather. He told all stories about monsters and things that happened in the war, and children with peculiar gifts. And his grandson is losing his mind, and he's like, I need to figure out what my granddad meant. If there's some truth in what he said, because maybe I can find some peace then. And he tries to figure it out, and he finds some things. And this is a book, a middle grade book, and I can expect and understand children to really, really like this. But it has so many layers under there as well. For an adult, this is still great. There are so many pictures in here, which I think is a very fun concept, because they're talking about the actual pictures, but the pictures are real, you know? So the pictures really add something to the story, and all the layers, well, it's just great. And it's the start of a series, which I will definitely continue. I wouldn't have picked this up soon if it hadn't been for my TBR jar, so it's already a success, because this was my first 5-star read of the year. So that is absolutely great. I would recommend you to read this, even though it's quite old and you probably have read it already or have seen the movie, but I hadn't before, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So, would recommend. And then we have one more book to talk about. Last year I started the manga One Piece, and the year before I started the graphic novel Heartstopper. And I just figured out I love these kind of stories. When you're like really busy or not really in the mood to read something complicated, to read something with a lot of pictures and that you can like finish in an hour, or if you have a very elaborate one, maybe 2 hours, but not that long. It's not such an investment. So I decided I wanted to read more manga this year, and in January I actually went to a bookstore, wanted to support them, so I wanted to buy one thing, and I figured out why not buy a manga then. So I did, and I immediately read it. And that was Spy Family Volume 1. So this is about a family. If I say what it is more, I actually already kind of spoiled the whole Volume 1. That's just how it works. Volume 1 is like an hour read, you know? So if I say what it is about, you already know what will happen in Volume 1, which is a little bit sad maybe. So I won't really go into details, but this is a spy. He gets a new assignment, and for this assignment he needs a family. So he's going to find a family to help him with his spy work. And this was a 4-star read for me, but almost 5 stars, because I really, really, really adored it. I compared it to Heartstopper and One Piece, and then it was like not 5 stars completely, but I really, really liked it, and I will definitely continue this manga. And I'm also really happy that I decided to read more manga, because apparently it's working out. I love this one as well. So that was actually it. Those were the 6 books that I read this January. Let me know what you've read. What was the favorite book that you've been reading in January? And do you have reading plans for February already? Let me know. I hope you'll have a lovely day filled with books, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye! What is the average amount of books that you read in a month? Because 6 is quite good for me, but it just felt like I could have done more, but maybe February